example about this idea of final frontiers. I mentioned that you only have to look through periods of insecurity, London, 1945, ghetto gardens during the Holocaust period in Germany, Cuba, the 1990 period, and what I'm going to introduce now is the Gaza Strip 2 years ago. And we can see how food security issues are played out during these periods, because it's again raising the peri-urban issue. This is a photo taken in 2005, before the blockade of Gaza, and we can see very extensively developed irrigation on the Israeli side and quite degraded environment on the Gaza Strip. Some of the problems here, these are very enforced problems because of the political nature, and it gives us an insight, if you like, into things like climate change impact as well. So we have very extensive irrigation of groundwater resources coming through on the Israeli side, which increases salt intrusion onto the Gaza Strip land. So it's a degrading, if you like, a lower the quality of the groundwater. During the blockade, food security became a vital issue, and then many of the donors, USAID and a lot of the NGOs, started to look at how they could look at a range of these issues in the Gaza Strip. Examples: organic agriculture, using things like closed nutrient systems, water and soil nutrient recycling. We see some of these examples here. This is a drip irrigation on an organic site. In the distance there you can see an Oxfam water tank that's been converted to a fish pond, and at the back is some greenhouses where organic tomatoes have been produced. Organic because they have no access to agricultural chemicals. So they're using fertilizer from the fish pond. Very simple technologies. Again, the Gaza Strip, looking at the waste management. Rather than a strict food aid, this is if you like, a cash for work program where people will, in this case, are being paid to bring in organic waste, and then the money is a form of relief, if you like, and then it's composted, bagged, and sold back into urban and peri-urban agriculture in the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip is urban; it's an urban environment. Here, rooftop gardens in the Gaza Strip. Every land then becomes utilised, from rooftops to riversides to open areas. So it's, urban and peri-urban agriculture then would cover a multifunctional approach. Here, using a more sophisticated drip irrigation to conserve water, but these technologies can be quite simple. A very simple drip irrigation in urban agriculture in Addis Ababa, for example. Wastewater irrigation, I'm sure this is going to be a theme that we're going to talk about. I'll mention a few points about it. What we're looking for particularly is things like using the multi-barrier approach. Risk reduction, there's never a single solution, but we're always looking for multiple entries to reduce risk. And it can be on-farm, here using simple filtration for watering cans, the use of on-farm settling ponds, small infiltration systems, to better education practices in the markets, all the way from food preparation itself. Look, going back to Hubli Dawah, where we talked about some of the systems, just some closing slides on issues of sustainable solutions that can often be found. Okay, here silkworm production, mulberry bush, irrigated with wastewater, a great example because it reduces this food risk. Another example, agroforestry, perfect for wastewater irrigation. Again, another way of reducing risk. Key thing though is education. Here, this is photo taken from Hyderabad, where peri-urban farmer is washing the vegetables in wastewater, although it has some levels of treatment, this wastewater. However, this is a common practice for farmers to wash their vegetables in wastewater, send it to the market. And often people think, oh, goodness me, this is very shocking. However, when rural products are brought to the same markets in urban areas, they're washed with the same water in the markets itself, which is often also contaminated. So all the issues have to be looked upon from crop production all the way through marketing to actual preparation at home. Education key perspective throughout the process. And here, students learn how to make compost in agricultural lessons, for example, but it's not just in research. There's a whole area where these issues have to be mainstream. Okay, just a couple of slides for conclusion. Urban regional resilience. No urban area will be self-sufficient on its own. Urban food security requires effective food production linkages along the urban-rural continuum. For me, the key thing about peri-urban is understanding this urban-rural continuum and understanding the processes along that continuum. And of course, I get so excited about peri-urban because it's key for food security, and it's a key potential as long as we manage it. Also, peri-urban has implications for disaster risk reduction, but it requires an integrated watershed management approach to mitigate and prevent impacts of drought, fire and flood. This is a preparedness approach, which is often lacking. Some of the functions: environmental protection, environmental sanitation, food security. Just to briefly look at some of these, things like flood protection, mitigation, urban biodiversity and habitat conservation. And we don't mean monocultures, but we mean diverse agroecology and things like agroforestry. Slope stabilization in fragile areas, protection of flood zones, environmental sanitation, organic solid waste utilization, wastewater irrigation, using things like multiple barrier approach, and of course food security itself, food production, income generation. Final slide to conclude, just to highlight, peri-urban has multiple functions, including food security, environmental protection and sanitation, and of course disaster risk reduction. Requires planning and design that maximizes the benefits while minimizing the risks. The idea of banning wastewater irrigation is not going to happen. And quite frankly, when you speak to a wastewater farmer, they will tell you the benefit always outweighs the risks that he is or she is experiencing. But what we have to do is support these people to reduce the risk and to maximize the benefits. Full potential requires bold urban visions, strong and enlightened leadership, and human and technical resources. This was a bold urban vision. However, what we need for these kind of visions really is strong and enlightened leadership to push that. And of course, human and technical resources, which is contained in this room here. Okay, thank you very much.